What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country that you need to know about here on a daily basis. We got a lot to talk about here today as there's so much going on here. The Federal Reserve has raised interest rates yet again, and it's really going to affect a lot of Americans here. You can see here, a lot of people starting to get upset over these interest rate hikes. Democrats tell the Fed chief, Jerome Powell, that the interest rate hikes they disregard working families. You can let me know your thoughts on this. I don't know how much politics goes into this. The Federal Reserve chairman, Jerome Powell, he's a Republican. He was appointed by former President Donald Trump, but Joe Biden elected to keep him on. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. I don't really think it does. But a lot of people are starting to get very upset with how high they're raising interest rates, and they're going to raise them again after this. So the Federal Reserve just raised interest rate hikes or interest rates 0.75% again. So 0.75% here just announced. And so credit card interest rates already this year have gone up on average about 3% before this announcement. So now this means that credit card interest rates alone could go up another almost percent, 0.75%. He had some hints here of the next interest rate hike that there could be a little bit of a pullback, which would mean a interest rate hike again, which could be smaller, but it also could not be smaller. Here, I'll let you hear some commentary here from famed investor Jeffrey Gundlach here. Let me know your thoughts on this.
Because it certainly seems what was at the beginning was not what it was at the end.
Sure did. It kind of turned into a Lucy and Charlie Brown in the football sort of a deal. He throws out there that he's getting mindful of the tightening that's already gone past and respectful of the fact that there's lags in monetary policy, and that sort of created a little bit of a party. You had a big rally in the 2-year Treasury yield went down and stocks went up a lot, and then the presser comes, and it's kind of like old times when the presser comes out and all of a sudden the message starts to get sculpted a little bit differently. So he sort of contradicted himself. He sounded kind of dovish with sort of a, we've tightened a lot already, and then suddenly it's what we think rates are going to go higher than we thought before, and kind of put the kibosh on the idea of anything resembling a pivot, a plateau of quite some time. And I think that really was intentional to kind of, people said he had to thread the needle. He kind of like straddled the problem rather than threaded the needle.
We were watching it at the same time. You did think that it was significant that language was put into the statement, the language of we'll consider the cumulative effects and the lag effects of what we've done to this point. And that was the dovish message. You thought it was important that it was in the statement.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a shift from we need clear and convincing evidence, which were statements prior this year. And he put this one in, I think, to just show that he's mindful of the fact they've gone a long way. You know, Scott, I was very critical of the Fed back in May. I thought they were way behind the curve. I've kind of somewhat facetiously said they should raise rates 200 basis points and then see what happens. But they've kind of done that. And they were miles behind the message of the bond market. And now they're pretty much be on the same block as the message from the bond market. And so I think that he's trying to make sure that he's not just perceived to be on a scorched earth path.
The real question is, what do they do from here? What should they do from here?
I think they're going to do what they should, because when I glue these statements together and try to figure out how they can be consistent with each other, I think what Powell said without saying it out loud is we're not going to raise 75 at the next meeting as a base case. I think that's kind of what he meant by we're respecting how far we've gotten. We know that there's lags. So I think we're probably going to get him slowing down. And The bond market has basically got the 2-year Treasury at 450, and that's kind of, they're talking about 425, 450, so they're pretty in sync.
Larry Summers tweeted yesterday to the suggestions that the Fed should either slow down or pause very soon. He said it's, quote, badly misguided. On balance, given its past errors, the Fed should stay on the current course and then evaluate things. You agree or disagree with Mr. Summers, the former Treasury Secretary of the United States, who's been one of the chief critics of the Fed?
I was very much in line with what Mr. Summers' thinking back in May to July. But I think what he's missing with this analysis, because he doesn't talk about quantitative tightening, because quantitative tightening has an effect, too, on things. Remember 2018 in December when we were on autopilot with both rate hikes and quantitative tightening, and they had to pivot almost immediately. So I think he's kind of missing that. Also, the big inflation pop that caused all this tremendous change in attitude at the Fed towards rate hikes was fueled primarily by the terrible CPI data of the first few months of this year. And so suddenly we went from very modest rate hike expectations to very big rate hike expectations. But of course, what that means is those numbers are going to be rolling off. So while the CPI has been hanging out on the headline in the 8s and even got to 9.1, it's coming down next year. We'll end this year at around 7. We'll probably be at below 4.5 as a base case. Things can always change.
So the question here is, you could see this headline here, the Fed may have to blow up the economy to get inflation under control, which is already kind of happening. Depends on who you ask and how bad things are, how bad things are going to stay, how much worse they're going to get, how much higher interest rates are going to get, how long they're going to stay this high, how many more interest rate hikes we're going to see. You can see here already 65% of people indicated that the economy is already in a recession. Only 22% of people think that we're not in a recession right now. So, yeah, most people think it's pretty bad. And now interest rates are getting sky high, almost here by the month, going up. Yikes. Yeah. What do you think? What do you think? And honestly, they're going to probably raise rates again next month in December, right before the holidays. And we know a lot of people buy holiday gifts on credit cards. We're already seeing the average credit card interest rate around 19%, the highest they've ever been. They're going to be going even higher now. They raise interest rates again here next month. That means they're going to again be going higher and higher. Yeah, it's just really kind of getting out of control here, and this just makes people that are in debt using this stuff to, do things like buy turkey for Thanksgiving, buy Christmas gifts for their kids, buy food. It hurts them the most. It hurts them the most. It hurts the low and middle income people the most. Yeah. And this is why we have 63% of Americans who say that the federal government should be sending out more inflation relief checks, a fourth stimulus check on the federal level. So, thankfully we've had 33 or maybe a few more states sending out state stimulus checks. But a fourth stimulus check on the federal level because of how bad inflation is getting, and now interest rates. So interest rates have already gone up 3% this year. Mortgage rates have gone up, they've doubled. They've gone from 3% or a little bit under 3%, depending on what type of mortgage you would have been able to get. Now they're at 7%. Yeah, and honestly, we were hearing a little bit there, some people blaming stimulus checks for the inflation. But now people realizing that they really helped out. And when you look around the world, inflation's actually worse in a lot of other countries, and some countries that didn't send out any stimulus checks, around the world. You look at Yeah, remember here that the United States has a 8.2% inflation rate of the overall. Social Security is getting an 8.7% inflation raise because it goes off a different scale, the CPIW. Okay, but just to give you guys an idea here, inflation in Europe is expected to hit a record high of 10.7% for October, according to their statistics here. In October here, its inflation forecast was 9.1% and 9.9%. Energy prices was up 41.9% year over year. They're dealing with the same sky-high gas prices as well. Here's where we go with the country statistics. Italy has an inflation rate of 9.4% in September, and it went to 12.8% in October. So again, we're at 8.2. They're now at 12.8. So that's 50% higher in Italy than our inflation, 12.8. Germany has inflation at 11.6%. Belgium has inflation at 13.1%. The Netherlands at 16.8%. And France is the lowest in all of Europe at 7.1%. Inflation in the UK is at 10.1%. So again, this is why, you know, I get that a lot of people want to blame Biden and say, oh, but inflation wasn't bad before Biden. But inflation has just kicked up here in the last, year or two. And again, the same thing around the world. And again, you got to just look at all these other countries. Is Biden to blame for Germany, Belgium, Netherlands? And again, it's not that I'm sticking up for Biden, because again, I could care less about Biden or any of these other guys. But this is why I just like to show you guys this stuff, because what I do care about is the people of the United States. And when you're seeing stuff like this, 63% of Americans support more inflation relief checks. And this is on Fox News, a Republican station. I mean, again, it helped out a lot of Americans. So did the rent assistance, the mortgage assistance, the utility assistance, the unemployment bonuses. And some people blame that, say, oh, that was the cause of the inflation. But, and we'll remember that former President Donald Trump actually sent out stimulus check 1 and stimulus check 2 and the beginning of the unemployment checks. But again, really, if you actually watch my channel or just know this stuff, Congress had to approve it and the president signs the check, okay? So really, it's Congress that has to approve it. But I like to show you guys this stuff because if just being knowledgeable, just knowing this stuff is half the battle of like who's to blame, who's not to blame, how everything works in the world, right? And when you're seeing here, we're at 8.2%, and most of the world, or a lot, let's just say a lot of the world, is at much higher or higher inflation rates. That just tells a lot of the story, right? Honestly, if Trump was president, I'd be saying the exact same thing, because I feel like some of this stuff gets in the way of trying to help out more people, because it's some of the Republicans in Congress who don't want to pass more because they think it's going to add to inflation, right? Remember that not a single Republican voted yes on the third stimulus check and the third stimulus check package, and they're blaming this stuff on the stimulus check. Remember, Mitch McConnell said that Mitch McConnell single-handedly blocked the stimulus check that former President Donald Trump wanted to pass, the $2,000 stimulus check, and ultimately it cost them 2 seats. But again, these checks are targeted. They go to people who need them. Also remember here that the US is bringing in right now more revenue than they ever have in the history of the United States. And I'll show you this here on the screen. US budget deficit cut in half for the biggest decrease ever. You can see here the revenue posted was easily the highest one-year total on record for the United States. And this budget deficit that was sliced in half. So the US government still runs a deficit, but honestly, it's just kind of how the government is. It would take a miracle for us to not run a deficit. It's just kind of how it is. It's just kind of everybody's kind of getting used to it now. But they cut it in half, and the revenue of the United States is more than it's ever been ever. And this actually includes the money that's going to go to help out 40 million Americans for the student loan forgiveness program. That was included in this deficit decline. So this just goes to show you that they can help out millions of Americans and still cut the deficit that is there for the yearly kind of budget. So the answer here is yes, the US government can kind of do two things at once. Is that yes, they can bring in revenue and help out people at the same time. And if you really just kind of take a step back and look here, they have done a pretty decent job of doing this. I mean, if you look at the past since 2020 to 2022, they've sent out 3 stimulus checks, unemployment bonuses, rent assistance, mortgage assistance, utility assistance. I've had thousands of comments alone from the rent assistance. Now, that's mostly run out because that's been going on for like almost 2 years now. But there was $40 billion of rent assistance. Okay, that alone was a godsend. I mean, people got 3 months, 6 months, 12 months or more of their rent paid. So that alone was great. And, you know, we've been going over that for a while. There's links down below in the description of this video if you want to watch on how to apply for it. Your state may have some money available for the rent assistance. Mostly it's running out here, but you could still watch a video on how to apply for it in your state. But the homeowners assistance, there's $9.9 billion of homeowners assistance. Utility assistance, I just did a video on that. That has actually just started here for this month for every single state. Some states start this month, some states start next month. You can get your utility bills paid from heating and electric for the winter. It's actually, I'll show you here. The Biden administration to provide over $13 billion to aid to help Americans, families lower their energy bills. Yeah. So this basically they'll pay your electric, your utility bills if you qualify, if you apply, and $13 billion. Okay. And what might happen in the future? Of course, we have the student loan forgiveness program, which again is going to go out to over 40 million Americans as long as it doesn't get blocked. And again, not everybody qualifies. I get it, but it's still going to help 40 million Americans, which is really good. Let's continue to get out more and more programs to help out more and more people. That's better than not helping out millions of Americans, right? And again, none of these programs raise taxes. The student loan forgiveness didn't raise anybody's taxes. This utility assistance didn't raise anybody's taxes. The rent assistance, the mortgage assistance, the utility assistance, the stimulus checks didn't raise anybody's taxes. And now you look at how bad inflation is and how much they're raising interest rates. A lot of people think 63% of Americans think that there should be more targeted assistance to the people who need it. And truly, there could be. 33 states are sending out state stimulus checks, and there really could be a lot more coming here. And I'll keep you up to date here on all this. There's going to be more states doing this for sure because the states just have a lot of money right now, as they all have. Almost every single state I've seen has at least $1 billion or multiple billions of money, in excess money, above and beyond their surplus. Okay, so yeah, you can let me know your thoughts here in the comments, and I will keep you up to date here on all these different programs and everything you need to know about here on a daily basis. So if you haven't yet, make sure to click the subscribe button down below to our YouTube channel. It's completely free to do so. This way you won't miss out on new videos, and make sure to hit the like button for us as well. Here's some videos you can watch next. You can click here to see my newest video on the utility assistance you can apply for next. And here's my newest video on state stimulus checks going out here as well. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next video.